Greetings. I want to have a talk with you regarding the various stages of a spiritual journey. In my experience over 27 years with various friends and students, they've reported their inner states at various stages of the spiritual journey. And I just have this in memory in terms of what people report about their inner state as they're going through various stages of the spiritual journey. Let's begin with the beginner stage. At the beginner stage, there's still some hurt, anger, lack of forgiveness from the past. Could be parents, could be teachers, it could be romantic heartbreak in high school days. Whatever it is, although you're intending to heal, there's still some remaining hurt about why did they do that to me? Or why was that teacher taking advantage of me? In any case, the past has not quite been forgiven at the beginning stages. However, at the beginning stages, there's a lot of hope that somehow this spiritual material is going to help me. At that point, there's not much discernment about the quality of the material being studied. In other words, a New Age novel at the drugstore could be mistaken with the Bible. In other words, both of them are being read at the same time. I mean, the person knows the difference between Bible and a New Agey book, but both of them are being read at the same time. At the beginning stages, people are grabbing for everything. In other words, watching dozens of YouTube videos, dozens of Instagram talks, New Age novels. It's all like piled on to me. I want to soak this up as much as possible. So within all of that, there's not much discernment about, okay, which one of these authors has Kundalini awakened in them? What's the difference between this speaker and that speaker? We're not talking about judgment, but as you become more spiritually mature, you listen to the first 5 minutes of a talk and you know whether this person has some sense of inner peace or is it just a powerful speaker? Like the difference between a motivational speaker and somebody who's carrying a lot of inner calm. Energetically, there's a difference. So we're not talking about judgment here. In the beginning stages, there's a lot of mood swings. So you have moments of calmness during meditation, and then meditation finishes and you jump back into activity and you can very quickly lose your sense of centeredness. So there's calmness while you're doing meditation, and then you get into intense activity and lose the calmness quickly. And there's a real Jekyll and Hyde personality at the beginning. In other words, the ego can bounce right back, and then you have moments of calmness where the soul shines upon you, and then you go right back to ego. A lot of swings like this. If there's any kind of an addiction, like alcohol, grass, cocaine, at the beginning stages of spirituality, there's what I call managed addiction. Managed addiction means 2 glasses of wine every evening, but you don't have the third one, so you're managing the alcohol. Before you drink the third one, you do a bit of meditation. And then the next night, again, there's 2 glasses of wine, maybe a sniff of coke or a couple of joints, and then you're back to spirituality again. This is what we call managed addiction. Why? Because there's still pain. There's unresolved pain that catches up with you once in a while. But you're doing your YouTube video, you're reading a lot of spiritual books, you're having your 2 glasses of wine, but you are hopeful. You're clinging on to spirituality. And at this stage, you're clinging on to a spiritual teacher or a book or videos. You're clinging on to another character to anchor yourself. In other words, the idea that my own centered self can get me to contentment is still not there. In the very first stage of spirituality, there's a clinical psychologist, a guru, a holy book. You're hanging on to something to center yourself. That's stage one. Let's go to stage two. In stage two, you realize that you must surrender to a higher force. The surrender is greater than stage one. In stage one, the ego is coming back and fighting spirituality. So there's the ego, and then there's the soul. The ego and the soul. This is why I call it the Jekyll and Hyde symptom. This is why there's the mood swings, you know. You're so calm sometimes, and then you come back out of practice and you're suddenly angry over your past. Stage two, you suddenly get it that this does not work. In other words, too much wine is just not going to work. Or remaining angry at my stepdad is just not going to work. In stage two, there's a very clear sense of, I'm not going to remain angry at the stepdad. I am going to bow the head. I'm going to use meditation, prayer, living in the present moment, gratefulness, and reverence to tone my ego down. This is the stage of the heart beginning to open. There's going to be some tears, but they are not tears of feeling sorry for yourself. In stage one, we are still feeling sorry for ourselves sometimes. It's like, why did I have to have those parents, or that childhood, or that friend in high school that took me to marijuana? You know, in stage one, there's still finger pointing. In stage two, it's like, no. This finger pointing is not going to work. Remaining angry at my sexually abusive high school teacher is not going to work. It's just keeping me angry. In stage two, it's intelligent forgiveness. For example, you look at your parents' picture when they were 5 and you realize, my parents used to be 5. When they were 5, somebody did a number on them. This is called deep understanding. It's not nonsensical forgiveness. Like in my Coming Full Circle course, I have you look at your parents when they were 5 years old. And then you realize that somebody did programming on their subconscious. They didn't know how to hug because they were never hugged. In stage two, you decide anger is not going to work. Revenge is not going to work. Too many joints is not going to work. Defensiveness is not going to work. So what do? You decide that there is some higher force than my own ego. So then prayer begins. Nature communion. When I started my journey, I was near New York City. I was in New York City. I would buy a sandwich. I bought myself a foldable chair. I would go to Bear Mountain National Park with a sandwich and a good book. And then I would tone it down and listen to the creek, the stream. And I would be with nature. That was the first time I started to surrender. Instead of anger, there was nature. There was prayer. There was good reading, but not any kind of reading. I started figuring out which authors had true inner silence to teach, because not all books are at the same energetic level. Okay? And then what happened to my ego, and I think what happens to a lot of egos, the ego realizes there's something bigger than me out here. Let me just listen to the forest. Let me pray. Let me ask for a solution from a higher dimension. This is not hocus pocus stuff. You know, you're walking in a forest and you realize Yellowstone is bigger than my ego. So let me just calm down and listen to the river. And let me look at my parents' picture when they were 5. And I realized that somebody did a number on them. So maybe they did the best they could with me, given how they were raised. In stage 2, meditation starts to deepen because the defensiveness is now down and we're just keeping ourselves open. We're keeping the heart open. We're asking for help from other people. We start to build a support group of fellow spiritual travelers. In stage 1, there's still that feeling of me versus the world. That's why the cup of wine is there once in a while. In stage 2, the feeling of loneliness is beginning to fade. It's like, oh, there's a group that I trust, and we meditate together, and we pray together, and we go through a spiritual book together. Like when I have Coming Full Circle, I get a group of people talking to each other, going through the life lessons. In stage 1, meditation is long. Sometimes you're aware of the watch. It's like, how long is this taking? Your thoughts are really interfering with the meditation in stage 1. In stage 2, for the first time, this sense of Robert is meditating starts to fade so that you merge with the object of your meditation. All of a sudden, you lose yourself in the mantra. All of a sudden, you lose yourself in breath comes in, breath goes out, breath comes in, breath goes out. The sense of Billy, Robert, Muhammad, it gets lost in Om, 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 Om. It's the first time the meditator loses himself in the meditation, or herself. That first time when the self is lost, even for a few seconds, that's a huge opening. And then towards the end of stage 2, you might start having some out-of-body experiences. For example, I teach you this 31-point relaxation when you lay down on your back, and I guide you, and I have you send waves and waves of breathing into 31 points of your body. Some of the students say, I stopped hearing you, and I lost the contours of my body, and I felt expanded. I felt like I was all over the room. Those are out-of-body experiences. You start to feel energy. A lot of students feel energy throbbing in them. They see some colorful lights behind the eyelids. So towards the end of the middle stage, you realize, oh, I must be an energetic self because my spine is feeling hot when I'm breathing up the spine, or I'm having tingles and there's pulsations in my body. Why did I lose Kambiz's voice in the middle of the laying down relaxation exercise? Why did half my body feel expanded? You start to really feel that I must be an energetic being within a physical frame. By the end of stage 2, parents are forgiven. The past is understood. You are able to smile at it. You realize it wasn't just me that had a high school heartbreak. There's millions of people. At the end of the intermediary stage, you realize children are born, they absorb the belief systems and personalities of the grown-up caretakers, and then their subconscious mind gets programmed and conditioned, and then we have to decondition ourselves, find our own authentic self. Therefore, at the end of intermediate stage, you're not feeling like a victim anymore. You really understand that your parents did the best they could. That's all they knew, because you look at their picture when they were 5, and they were conditioned by other people. In those days, child psychology didn't even exist. So you start having deep understanding. Through deep understanding, you forgive. End of stage 2, end of intermediate stage. There's no more victimhood. The heart is opening. You allow the tears to come, you allow laughter to come. You're communing with nature. You are praying for the best answer that's available. Also, in stage 2, you notice something very interesting. Because you're softening around the edges, all of a sudden you notice that people in traffic are giving you the right of way. The bank teller is being kinder to you. Your supervisor at work is being friendlier to you. And you start to realize that as you're softening around the edges yourself, you're having a softening effect on other people. This is why society is being kinder to you. When I started to meditate, immediately I felt like, wow, this woman at the bank is being kinder. And somebody in traffic in New York City is saying this, go ahead, I give you the right of way. It was very surprising to me. Before that, because I was like this, the person in traffic was like this. Because we're animals. We pick up on each other's animalistic energies. So in stage 2, because you are softening, because your heart is opening, you're having an effect on the bank teller. This is all at the animal level. You're making people smile without realizing it. So you're getting a lot of cooperation. Things are not such a struggle anymore. When I was a banker in Wall Street, fighting, I didn't want that job. So I was sending off sparks, and people would pick up these sparks. And you don't realize you're doing it. Okay, stage 3, completely different. Stage 3, spontaneous mantras and prayers are arising from within without you even intending it. You're ironing a shirt and then all of a sudden, Om, Om, Om. Spontaneous prayer, spontaneous mantras. You look at the deer is looking at you, and there's an unquestionable sense of oneness. If you step on an ant, not A-U-N-T, not your aunt. If you step on an ant, you feel like you are dying, right? Oneness. You go to Grand Central Station, you, the call girl, the investment banker, the shoe shine boy, all of you are one. There's no judgment, there's no prejudice, there's no social classes. There's this incredible love for the day. In stage 3, you wake up and you're just happy that you're vertical and alive. Before it took a BMW to make you happy, now you look at the blue sky, you just, for the first time in your life, you're just very happy that the sky is blue. There's no other condition. In stage 3, you literally feel the presence of a divine energy pulsing within your body. This sounds like schizophrenia, but in stage 3, you feel the presence of a God force accompanying you through the day. You feel like you're riding on this big palm, and this palm is guiding you. You ask for guidance, it's there, very quickly. There's a lot more serendipity. In other words, you have a question within you, you open up the newspaper, there's the answer right there. Or you have a big question in your mind, and somebody at the bus stop says, excuse me, do you know that around the corner there's such and such store? And that was exactly the question in your mind. Huge amounts of serendipity. You have this huge love for everybody. You can't show it, obviously, at Grand Central Station, but the love is there. Unmistakable feeling of oneness. Spontaneous prayer, spontaneous mantras. And then you're walking around your living room, you're suddenly pulled into meditation. At the same time, the amount of money, romance, health, and wealth is increasing. You're managing your life, but you are living your day with the love of God. And then other things that happen, you look across to a tree and you see blurry lights and auras around the leaves. You can witness sap going through the veins of a leaf. Everywhere you look, there's only one God force. Everywhere you look. You look into the eyes of the horse, there's the God force. You look at the leaves, you can see the sap. Inside the sap, you can see the God force. You see the smiles of children and boom, your heart just explodes. And then what happens to you, you literally feel like I am spirit living in this skeleton. In other words, it feels like your words, your thoughts, and your actions are coming from some other realm. This is not egoism, because some people think they're God. We're not talking about that. If you actually get to stage 3, you literally feel like my body is dedicated to whatever instinctive command comes from nature. If you are at stage 3, you don't kill people because it's a command from God. No. It's all peace. It's all love. Your body is at the command of the God force in your town. So you know what you might do? You might get up on a Sunday morning, go to a park bench and compliment a very old, lonely woman about how beautiful her dress looks, and bang, you've made her day. See, that's your resume. Your resume is to make old people laugh. And people say, well, that's not part of a professional resume. I say, that's it. That's stage 3. You're giving hope to hopeless people. And you're not in charge. Your entire body has become an instrument for all day, all night. You are throbbing with this huge pulsation of love. God bless. No judgment. All of us go through stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3.